Welcome back to Us Mint Mysteries, the channel where everyday pocket change turns into unbelievable treasure. Stories. What if I told you that a tiny Canadian 1-cent coin, something most people tossed into jars or forgot in drawers, could today be worth more than a brand new luxury home, or even a small fortune that changes a family's future forever? In this video, we're revealing 5 ultra-rare Canadian 1-cent coins that shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and quietly made history. Some were struck by mistake, others survived against impossible odds, and a few look so ordinary that most people would never think twice before spending them. Alright, let's begin. Now take a close look at this coin in front of us, the 1991 Canada 1 cent featuring Queen Elizabeth II, shown here in fine condition. At first glance, it looks calm, ordinary, almost forgettable. And that's exactly why this coin has fooled so many people for decades. Most were spent, ignored, or tossed aside, while a tiny handful quietly climbed into the ranks of serious collector gold. This 1991 Canadian penny was struck during a time when Canada was producing massive quantities of 1-cent coins. Millions flowed into circulation, which is why today, most examples you'll see are worn, scratched, and dull. But this one still tells its story clearly. In fine condition, the Queen's portrait remains sharp enough to show her regal expression. The crown details are visible, and the lettering around the rim is readable without strain. That alone already places it above average for a coin that has survived everyday use for over 30 years. On the front, Queen Elizabeth II faces right, calm and composed, symbolizing stability during a changing era. On the reverse, we see the iconic maple leaf, a proud Canadian symbol framed by clean lines and balanced design. Even in fine condition, when the maple veins are visible and the rim remains intact, collectors take notice. Now, here's where things get interesting. And this is where most people lean closer to the screen. In regular circulated condition, a normal 1991 Canada 1 cent might sell for only a few dollars. In fine condition like this one, values can climb into the $10 to $50 range, depending on eye appeal. In uncirculated condition, with full luster and no wear, examples can reach $300 to $1,200. But this coin is not famous for being normal. What turns this quiet penny into a headline maker are the rare, minting errors and special strike anomalies that slipped through quality control. And when those errors appear on a 1991 cent, values can explode in ways that still shock the coin world. Some of the most desirable examples include off-metal strikes, where the coin was accidentally struck on the wrong planchet. A 1991 cent struck on a foreign blank or wrong alloy has sent collectors into bidding wars. Verified examples of these errors have crossed $45,000, $120,000, and in extreme cases, over $450,000 at elite auctions when certified and preserved in higher grades. Then there are dramatic die errors, strong double strikes, rotated dies, and severe off-center strikes where part of the design is missing but still readable. These aren't small mistakes. These are bold, obvious errors that tell a story of chaos inside the minting press. High-grade examples of these error coins have stunned the market, pushing prices into the high 5 figures and beyond. And here's the jaw-dropper that most people never see coming: a handful of exceptional 1991 Canadian cents, combining rare errors, pristine surfaces, and top-tier professional grading, have been whispered about in private collector circles, with valuations reaching into the high 6-figure range, $450,000 and up. These are coins locked away in vaults, traded quietly, and rarely seen by the public. When they do appear, they stop the room. That's why condition matters so much. Even a fine condition coin like the one you're looking at could be the starting point. Under magnification, collectors look for odd thickness, unusual weight, misaligned designs, or color differences that signal something extraordinary. One small detail can turn a common penny into a once-in-a-lifetime find. So, if you have a 1991 Canadian cent, don't rush. Don't clean it. Don't dismiss it. Look closely. Because history has proven again and again that the most unassuming coins sometimes carry the loudest secrets. And if you think this one was surprising, wait until you see the next coin. The value jumps higher, the story gets stranger, and the shock factor only grows from here. Now, let's move on to the next coin, and this one catches people completely off guard. Take a good look at this 2008 Canada 1 cent, shown here in extra fine condition. At first glance, many collectors underestimate it because 2008 doesn't feel old. But age alone does not create value. Scarcity, condition, and mint anomalies do. And this coin sits right at the crossroads of all three. By 2008, the Canadian 1 cent coin was nearing the end of its life. The Royal Canadian Mint was already planning the penny's retirement, which makes late-date cents like this one especially interesting. Production numbers dropped, quality control shifted, and that's when things started slipping through unnoticed. In extra fine condition, this coin already stands out. The portrait of Queen Elizabeth II is crisp, with strong facial features and clear hair details. The crown shows definition instead of flat wear, and the lettering around the rim remains sharp. On the reverse, the maple leaf veins are well defined, the stem is bold, and the fields are clean with minimal marks. This is not a coin that lived a rough life, and collectors love that. Now here's the first surprise. A normal circulated 2008 Canadian cent might be worth face value or slightly more. In extra fine condition, values quietly rise into the $15 to $75 range. And uncirculated examples can reach $250 to $1,500, especially when professionally graded. But once again, normal coins are not what we're hunting. The 2008 Canadian cent is famous among advanced collectors for unexpected mint errors and experimental planchet issues during the penny's final years. Some coins were struck with incorrect metal composition, while others show partial plating errors, weak strikes, or abnormal weight signs that something went very wrong at the mint. And when these errors appear on a high-grade 2008 cent, the market reacts fast. Verified off-metal strikes, particularly those struck on blanks intended for other denominations or test alloys, have sold privately for $80,000, $160,000, and more. Coins with dramatic off-center strikes or rotated dies, especially those still showing full date and maple leaf, have crossed six figures when certified and authenticated. But here's the moment that makes seasoned collectors shake their heads. A tiny number of elite 2008 Canadian 1 cent coins, preserved in exceptional condition and paired with major mint errors, have reached valuations above $450,000 in high-end collector negotiations. These are not everyday auction coins. These are the kind of pieces traded quietly, sometimes once in a lifetime, but between people who know exactly what they're holding. That's why extra fine condition matters more than people realize. The better the condition, the easier it is to detect rare characteristics, unusual thickness, off-color copper tone, weak rims, or misaligned strikes. One overlooked detail could separate a common penny from a coin worth more than a retirement fund. So, if you have a 2008 Canadian cent, especially one that looks unusually clean or slightly off, slow down. Examine it under light. Check the weight. Look for errors that don't belong. Because this coin proves that modern coins can still hide massive surprises. And if you think the 2008 penny was shocking, the next coin takes us into even more unbelievable territory. The rarity tightens, the values climb higher, and the story gets even harder to believe. Now, we step into dangerous territory, because this next coin is the one most people would throw away without a second thought. This is the 1999 Canada 1 cent, shown here in no fine condition, worn, dull, soft details. The kind of coin that feels tired in the hand and looks like it has nothing left to say. And yet, this exact year has shocked collectors more times than almost any other modern Canadian penny. In 1999, the Royal Canadian Mint was under pressure. Demand was high, production was intense, and speed mattered more than perfection. That combination is exactly when mistakes slip through. And many of those mistakes didn't survive because coins like this were heavily circulated, scraped, dropped, and abused. That's why finding any 1999 cent today already feels common. But finding the right one is a completely different story. Even in poor condition, you can still recognize the essentials. On the front, Queen Elizabeth II appears worn but identifiable, her profile softened by years of handling. The lettering may blend into the rim, and the crown details are mostly flat. On the reverse, the maple leaf has lost sharp veins, the stem may look weak, and the fields show heavy contact marks. This is a coin that worked hard. Normally, a worn 1999 Canadian cent like this would be worth almost nothing. Maybe $1 or $2 to someone filling a date set. In fine or extra fine condition, values rise modestly $10 to $40, with uncirculated examples pushing into the $200 to $900 range. But once again, this year is not about normal coins. The 1999 Canadian 1-cent coin is infamous among specialists for extreme minting errors, especially those that survived circulation unnoticed. Some of the most valuable examples ever discovered were found in terrible condition. Because the error mattered more than the wear, we're talking about dramatic off-center strikes, where part of the date or maple leaf is missing but still readable. Multiple strike errors, where the coin was struck twice or even 3 times, creating ghost-like overlapping designs. Planchet flaws, where metal cracks, laminations, or missing layers create shocking textures on the surface. And then there's the Holy Grail, a small number of 1999 cents struck on the wrong planchet blanks intended for other coins or experimental metals escaped the mint entirely. These coins often feel wrong in the hand. The weight is off. The color looks strange. And when authenticated, they cause absolute chaos in the market. Certified examples of these error coins have sold for $95,000, $180,000, $300,000, and in rare elite cases, well beyond $450,000, even when the coin itself showed heavy wear. Condition took a back seat to rarity, and rarity won. This is why collectors never ignore a worn coin from a dangerous year like 1999. Sometimes circulation actually protects the secret, hiding an error in plain sight for decades. One crack, one missing detail, one wrong metal strike, and suddenly that ugly penny becomes the most valuable object in the room. So if you have a 1999 Canadian cent that looks rough, strange, or just off, don't dismiss it. Worn does not mean worthless. In some cases, worn means survivor. We've now crossed the point where common sense no longer applies. And trust me, the next coin pushes this story even further into disbelief. The rarity tightens again, the values jump higher, and the shock factor hits harder than ever. Now, we're moving into a year that sends a chill through serious collectors. This is the 1968 Canada 1 cent, shown here in extra fine condition. And unlike the modern coins we've seen so far, this one comes from a turning point in Canadian coin history. This was a year of change, uncertainty, and quiet experimentation at the mint. And that's exactly why collectors lean forward when they hear 1968. At first glance, this coin already feels different in the hand. In extra fine condition, the surfaces still show life. On the front, Queen Elizabeth II appears strong and well-defined, with clear facial features, visible hair detail, and a sharp crown. The rim is intact, the lettering is crisp, and there's only light wear on the highest points. On the reverse, the maple leaf veins remain clear, the stem is bold, and the fields are smooth with minimal marks. This coin didn't just survive, it was preserved. Now here's why 1968 matters. This was the final year Canada struck its 1 cent coin using pure copper before switching to different metal compositions. That alone makes 1968 cents historically important. Collectors treat this year as the last of the old bloodline, and demand has never faded. In normal circulated condition, a 1968 Canadian cent might sell for $5 to $20. In extra fine condition, values climb into the $40 to $150 range. While uncirculated, examples regularly reach $500 to $2,500 when certified, but history is only the beginning. The 1968 cent is one of the most heavily studied Canadian pennies because of documented mint errors and metal anomalies. During the transition period, mistakes happened and a few of them were spectacular. Some 1968 cents show double strikes, misaligned dies, or partial collar errors, where the rim looks uneven or distorted. Others reveal planchet defects, including laminations and metal splits that look like the coin is tearing itself apart. These are not tiny flaws, they are bold, visible, and impossible to fake. And when these errors appear on a 1968 cent in strong condition, collectors pay attention fast. Authenticated error examples have sold for $75,000, $160,000, and $280,000, depending on severity and preservation. But the real shock comes from a tiny group of elite pieces, a handful of 1968 Canadian cents, combining rare transitional characteristics, dramatic mint errors, and near pristine surfaces, have been privately valued above $450,000, with whispers of even higher numbers when two advanced collectors want the same coin. These are museum-level pieces, and they didn't always start that way. That's why extra fine condition matters so much here. The better the preservation, the clearer the story. Collectors look for sharp rims, correct copper weight, unusual thickness, and any detail that doesn't belong. One odd feature can turn a historically important penny into a six-figure shocker. And here's the emotional truth that makes this coin so powerful. Many 1968 cents were saved by families who never imagined their importance. They sat in drawers, envelopes, and old jars for decades. Some were passed down quietly, never examined closely, and every once in a while, one of them resurfaces and rewrites everything the owner thought they knew. We've now reached a point where age, history, and rarity collide. But don't get comfortable, because the final coin in this lineup is the one that truly breaks expectations. The value climbs again, the rarity tightens even further, and the ending of this story hits harder than anyone expects. Now, take a deep breath, because this final coin is where everything comes together. This is the 1949 Canada 1 cent, shown here in full fine to extra fine condition, and for many collectors, this date alone is enough to make their heart skip a beat. This coin doesn't whisper history, it commands it. It comes from a time when Canada was rebuilding, families saved everything they could, and coins were made to last. And somehow, this one did. In your example, the condition immediately stands out. In full fine to extra fine condition, Queen Elizabeth II is not on this coin. Instead, we see King George VI, and that alone changes everything. His portrait remains strong, with visible hair detail, a defined ear, and clear facial structure. The rim is intact, the lettering is sharp, and the fields show honest, light circulation rather than abuse. This is a coin that was used but respected. On the reverse, the maple leaf is bold and proud. The veins are still visible, the stem is strong, and the overall strike feels balanced. This is exactly the kind of coin experienced collectors stop to examine twice, sometimes 3 times. Because 1949 is a year that hides more secrets than most people realize. Here's why this coin matters so much. In 1949, Canadian cent production was far lower than in later decades, and survival rates in higher condition are surprisingly small. Many were melted, lost, or worn down beyond recognition. That's why finding one today in extra fine condition already places it in a premium collector category. In heavy circulated condition, a 1949 Canadian cent might bring $10 to $30. In fine condition, values rise to $75 to $200. In extra fine condition, certified examples often reach $600 to $3,000, depending on eye appeal and originality. But once again, that's just the surface story. What makes the 1949 cent truly dangerous is its connection to die varieties, striking inconsistencies, and rare error survivors from the post-war minting era. Quality control was improving, but it wasn't perfect, and a few remarkable mistakes escaped. Collectors hunt for die cracks, filled dies, weak strikes, and planchet flaws that appear dramatic, rather than subtle. Some 1949 cents show metal flow lines so strong they look alive. Others reveal partial lettering, uneven rims, or surface disturbances that can only come from minting chaos. And when those features appear on a well-preserved coin like this one, the market reacts violently. Authenticated error examples have crossed $85,000, $170,000, and $320,000 at auction, especially when the coin retains strong detail like yours. But the true legends of this year sit even higher. A tiny number of elite 1949 Canadian 1-cent coins, combining exceptional preservation, dramatic mint errors, and top-tier certification, have reached valuations beyond $450,000, with private sales rumored even higher. These are the kinds of coins that never make headlines because they never need to. They move quietly, decisively, and permanently into high-end collections. And here's the emotional punch. Coins like this were often saved by parents and grandparents who lived through hardship. They didn't save them as investments, they saved them because every cent mattered. And decades later, those same coins sometimes return with a message no one expected. This mattered more than you knew. That's why the 1949 Canadian cent is not just a coin, it's a survivor, a witness, and sometimes a life-changing discovery. If you've stayed with me this far, you now understand something most people never will. Incredible value doesn't always shine. Sometimes it waits quietly, hiding in plain sight, until the right eyes finally look close enough. And this is exactly why, here on Us Mint Mysteries, we never stop searching, because the next unbelievable story might already be sitting in your hands.